Hello and welcome to the Father and Son Pastime Podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Kevin.
That's my dad.
How are you?
Dad, we are continuing our lovely baseball stories into some of the lesser known parts of the game. And today, Dad, you get to choose a topic and get to be the presenter, and I get to be the guy that doesn't know anything about the topic. So what's today's topic, Dad?
We're talking about the Negro Leagues, kind of like from the origin, back in around the Civil War era, through like the 1950s, where Jackie Robinson came into the major leagues, and the Negro Leagues kind of disbanded because they're very great black baseball players went into the major leagues. So we're going to talk about that era and the rise and fall of the Negro Leagues in America.
I think you just gave away the fall of it, but all right, I'm ready for a little bit of trivia here, a little bit of history. I definitely think before I guess we get started, I'm glad that MLB is doing a good job recently to incorporate a lot of Negro League statistics into Hall of Fame stuff and whatnot. I know Baseball Reference, if you are probably a watcher of this podcast, you know about Baseball Reference, that they are also really looking to incorporate Negro League stats into some of their great encyclopedias. And we get to see really how many home runs like Josh Gibson hit, for example.
Yes, one of the very good players that come out of the Negro Leagues.
Right. So again, I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but I just wanted to take a moment and pause and reflect that, hey, we're trying to undo some bad history with getting a little bit more research in there and getting more knowledge out. And again, maybe this podcast is helpful for people. Maybe, again, this is something that people want to learn more about, and they found our podcast.
That's terrific. I think just a quick story. The main reason why I chose this topic was I went to the Maryland State Fair in Cockeysville, Maryland, for those who don't know where that is. And in that, they had a booth for the Negro Leagues, and they have a museum in Owings Mills, Maryland. So if you are in the Baltimore area, we haven't been, but I'm sure we will in the near future.
On the list.
Yeah, and just the nicest man in the world, talked to us about, especially the Baltimore history and all that, and he couldn't have been nicer, and I just, just from the photos and everything, Hank Aaron was the person of choice to be featured during the state fair. He passed away this year and everything else, but as a little boy, I remember Hank Aaron playing for the Milwaukee Braves, black and white television, and how good he was. He wasn't a huge man, by the way, but he was brutally strong with a quick bat and just pummeled the Cubs every time the Braves came to town. So seeing that kind of all tied together, and that's why I chose the topic, was I was very interested in the origin and how it kind of went through, 70 years, and how horrible those players had to be treated along the way, and the conditions they had to play in, and the hotels and the fields, and just everything. So I hope that Major League Baseball does it justice, and they do everything they can to promote the Negro Leagues.
Well, let's crack in.
Okay. One of the great things that happened, it kind of like, it was almost linear how the major leagues and the Negro Leagues happened. It both were on the Civil War era. And just to tell you a little something, 1859 was the first organized Negro League baseball game in New York City.
So pre-Civil War.
This is pre-Civil War. It
okay.
was. And then it kind of, got better as when. But the two teams were the Henson Baseball Club out of Queens.
Okay.
Played the Weeksville Brooklyn. And their nickname was the Unknowns. And the final score was, Patrick?
It's either going to be 1-0 or like 40-30.
54-43.
All right, there we go.
And it's a softball game.
Yeah. Well,
but you can only imagine what the baseball consisted of.
Yeah, dimensions of whatever park they played at.
Correct.
There was no standards.
Right.
Who knows if they had 90-foot diamonds.
Yeah. But the 54-43, 1859. It's probably a 6-hour game.
It's not even. It's unheard of.
But yeah, it was in Jamaica section of Queens, and that was great. And then as time went on, they started adding. Cities and all that stuff. The 4 cities, which were the original cities to host a Negro League team, was Jamaica, which is Queens, New York, Albany, New York, Philadelphia, and Chicago.
Oh. I was thinking it'd be all centered around New York City. This is very spread. What, they're each leagues or teams?
The teams came from those 4 cities, and that's who...
Albany's is a big strike for me. I'm like, I don't know, maybe Albany was bigger back then.
Who knows? Who knows? Was it a manufacturing town that employed a lot of folks? It was the state capital of New York, so, who knows? But the one city that was the Mecca of the first run of the Negro Leagues was what city out of those 4?
I still gotta say New York City.
Philadelphia.
Well, good for Philly, okay.
Philadelphia was the one that was the Mecca, according to my research.
Philly.
Yeah, and everything came out of that. That was...
Stars, or am I getting ahead of myself? Philadelphia Stars? That team?
You know what? Everything was a giant back then.
Yeah,
there was Elite Giants and all that stuff. So
I just remember there was a star. I don't know.
It could be. I don't know how the answer to that.
Yeah.
But this is something that I looked up because everything was... the word barnstorming was throughout my research. And I said to myself, you know what? I think I know what that means, but do you know the actual definition of barnstorming?
Besides traveling around the country to play baseball, something specific probably has to do with barns that you probably played on a field that was recently plowed, something along those lines?
Pretty close, pretty close. It literally means brief stops in small towns. Is to give theatrical performances, and originally they did those theatrical performances in barns. So if you were a barnstormer...
So it's a traveling circus. This is pre-sports.
Correct.
Oh, so traveling theater.
Yeah, so if you were barnstorming, it didn't even have a baseball connection. It was a bunch of people came around, vaudeville, those type of things. And they went to these small towns, and they picked a barn. People went to that one barn because there wasn't any arenas.
Right, you could sit at the second level of a barn.
Didn't sound of straw and all that stuff.
You could sit outside hearing stuff.
Right.
Could be lit probably pretty well with a few lanterns.
Yeah, so barnstorming literally was theatrical performances that were performed
in a traveling
barns.
Show. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So and they adopted that for baseball.
Yeah, I've only heard it associated with baseball.
Yeah. So I thought that was quite interesting, and then once all this started happening, it was post Civil War. There was a gentleman named Rube Foster.
I think it's Ruby Foster. Ha ha ha! I think it's Ruby, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
It's with an E, right, at the end.
It
of it.
is.
I think it's Ruby.
Okay. Well, he had a team called the Chicago American Giants.
Okay.
That he was one of the original real power brokers of that.
What year are we in now?
So right now we're in 1870.
Shit. We're okay.
Okay.
Ruby Foster was alive back then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then as time progressed, there was Kansas City got involved. Kansas City was one of the
Monarchs, right?
Very good, and they had
royalty.
Teams. Correct.
It is.
And it was back from 1867 to 1876. Then in 1895, a gentleman named Bud Fowler came up with the Cuban Giants, and they were
maybe
correct.
All right.
And they were really, really, really good. They won 118 games out of 154.
Oh, okay.
So they were very good. And again, barnstormers,
right,
and everything else. One of the things, because back then, black players weren't allowed in the major leagues, but the black players tried to pass themselves as Spanish or Native Americans to play in games. So in 1899, Bill Galloway appeared in 5 games for a team in Canada, Woodstock, Ontario to be specific. And then it was discovered he was black, and he only lasted 5 games, and he kicked him out.
Well, let me pause because I got questions.
Okay.
So, let me go with my. Out of all that, my first thought, I didn't know Canada had baseball then, so that's new.
Yeah.
We'll breeze past the Canadian baseball. Maybe the next topic. 2. So it was less.
Well, don't forget Ontario is just above Detroit.
I know, but still, it's a different country.
I know.
I mean, we only have one. I mean, I know there's some minor league teams and whatnot, and there's Canadian baseball leagues now, but we only have Toronto as a professional organization. So it seemed like at one point Canadian baseball was thriving. Anyways, second comment. So it was easier in this country to be a foreigner, right? Because I'm assuming Cuban, that part, and then Native American, which very interesting. I think it'd be like whites and non-whites at that point. But no, they were like, all right, if you're Cuban, you can play with us. That's fine, but no to blacks.
Correct, because they wanted to explain their dark skin.
Okay.
So they said, I'm Cuban. And they're going, oh, okay.
So that was fine.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. And that was another oddity.
So, okay. So when they say like Jackie Robinson, we all love Jackie Robinson here, but when they say Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, that's not a correct statement then. Because these black guys that are trying to be Cuban or these actually Cuban guys did break the color barrier before.
Correct, until they were discovered to be black.
And they got kicked out?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So that's like one of those trivia questions that's designed to stump you when you say who was the first, non-white baseball player. Everyone thinks Jackie Robinson, which is not the case, apparently.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But he was the first legitimate black player.
Major leaguer or something like that.
That was accepted into the major leagues.
Gotcha, yeah. Okay? I'm sure there's like a ton of different leagues before the major leagues, too.
Right. But Ruby Foster, in 1920, came up with the Negro National League, and that really started pushing the Black Baseball League and really gained. He went to a meeting and he says, it was in Kansas City as well. And he said, we need to be organized.
Okay.
To have this league, we're very fragmented and teams all over. But we need to organize this, make it central, make it schedules, and then promote it and everything else. So he was the person that really is responsible for the Negro League in America, really from the 20s to the 50s. He's the one who's their commissioner.
So, all right, let me get a little backstory on Ruby. So, you mentioned him earlier. So, he clearly was a player in these barnstorming leagues.
Correct, and then that took over.
Got older, obviously, probably in his, it sounds like maybe his 60s at this point.
Right.
I don't know what the timeline on Ruby is. And then it's like, what we should do, or what my legacy should be, is getting some organization to these barnstorming and actually have established stadiums or whatnot.
Schedules.
Right. Booming 20s is probably also on his side there.
Yes.
So he's got some economic boom. Okay.
Right.
All right, let's go, Ruby.
And if you really think about it, there was pockets of wealth throughout the United States, and then those
big cities.
Yes. And then, just to tell you some of the cities that had teams back then, Chicago had 2 teams.
Am I playing Guess That Team?
Say it again?
I don't know if you had the names of the teams. I was going to do Guess That Team.
No.
But okay.
No, I might have it on another page.
I know there's the Atlanta Blackcrackers. That always interests me because I thought that.
Yeah.
There's Baltimore had 2 teams. I don't know if at the same time.
I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get to that. Yeah.
But just to give you, it's...
There's Black Yankees. I'm sorry.
Yep. Chicago had 2 teams. Dayton, Ohio had a team.
Didn't know.
Detroit, Kansas City Monarchs. Indianapolis had an Indianapolis ABC.
They had the Clowns, too. Well, I don't know what ABC is.
And then St. Louis. So if you really think about it, they're
just
all...
St. Louis. I like that.
Well, I done.
It's probably the Giants.
There was a lot of Giants.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, they're all industrial towns. So these players, I'm sure, had full-time jobs and part-time went barnstorming for a little extra cash and everything else.
Well, even at this point you said the 20s, so even the major leaguers outside, the kings like Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig aren't making that much money.
Correct.
So
they're, and I'm sure the bus rides were just horrific, hot, steamy cities and going and, God, on a weekend they might play 6 games.
Yeah.
But they love the game and everything else. One of the things that Ruby did as well, he organized all-star games. So he had the best...
fanfare.
Yes, he had the best East-West, and he had all-star games.
Okay.
In 1933, the all-star game was in Chicago. How many fans attended that game for the Negro Leagues?
Was that Wrigley or I
think it was
Comiskey
at South Park.
Okay, South Park. I don't know how much South Park could hold. 33. Oh, height of the Depression. Stadiums. I'm going to go 15,000.
50,000 people attended the All-Star game.
I don't think even stadiums were that big at that point.
I'm sure they're standing and everything else.
That's a lot of people.
Yes.
During the Depression. Very surprising.
Yeah, 50,000.
So Ruby Foster is a little bit more... He's a businessman, but he's also an entertainer at this point?
Correct. He's the Don King of baseball.
So was there... all right, yeah. So was there any other... You said it's theatrical a little bit.
Right, it's a show.
So in addition to playing baseball for 9 innings, was there stuff in... But I think a minor league baseball...
Food was huge. Okay. And, it was a Sunday picnic extraordinaire.
Okay.
And so when they played on weekends, the thing that went into it was you got unbelievable menu that you could choose from.
Okay.
You brought the whole family. I'm sure they sat on blankets in the outfield,
Right.
and that went into it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
But basically, it was a very community-oriented
It was a place
performance, correct, that lasted all day. So
Okay.
I'm sure church in the morning, in the afternoon, they went out to see the players.
It's a good Sunday.
Who were Broadway stars,
Okay.
if you think about that.
All right.
The
Okay.
stars of the Broadway production was Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson.
In the 30s?
Yes.
Okay. I always keep forgetting, like, Satchel Paige played into his 50s, and he was just a crazy player. Yeah.
And the
also entertainer.
what they used to do to make it even more theatrical was Satchel at the beginning of the game would tell the audience that I will guarantee I'm striking out the first 6 players. All the outfielders go to the dugout.
So we got some smack talking going on.
Correct.
Okay.
And Satchel backed it up.
Okay.
And
I like that.
Yeah. And between him and Josh Gibson, apparently he threw hard, he threw breaking balls, and he used to strike out those 6 players all the time.
Why only the first 6? Like,
Because
7th hitter always got him? I'm just curious.
I think that's what he could guarantee
Okay.
after that.
People figured out his pitch.
The fastball went down in the 82
That's still
or something.
good. 2 perfect innings?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But so basically...
That 7th batter's happy. He's like, ha! I'm going up against Satchel today.
That's right.
I'm getting a hit.
Maybe he started
Please put me 7, coach.
Yeah, maybe we got to, something to eat and drink and all that stuff. And we got a little slow out there.
I'd be very intimidated if 6 of my, in theory, better players struck out ahead of me.
So the Negro League was doing very well financially. I'm sure the conditions got better. And in 1937, the total attendance for the Negro League games was what?
How many teams at this point? Do you know?
I think it's 8
Ballpark?
teams, 8 teams throughout, and they played a full schedule. But guess how many fans in 1937 attended Negro League games?
So we're going all 8 ballparks for a full season of play.
Correct.
That total number, whatever that math
Correct.
is.
And they got 50,000 for an All-Star game.
Right, and obviously that's not the average. That's an All-Star game.
Correct.
So they're playing in probably pretty big cities at this point. They're not
And big towns that are growing.
I'm going to go 1.5 million.
3 million fans in 1937
Didn't carry a zero
supported Negro League baseball.
That's great. And what were their fans? Now again, we're talking about an era of segregation. Are their fans all black fans, or do we have a mix?
That's the assumption, but
Okay.
I'm sure there were some white fans in there, but the vast majority were black.
Right. Okay.
So, and then the other thing people forget, and this was a huge part of the research I did, the commissioner of baseball back then was Kennesaw Landis.
Cool name.
Yes.
Kennesaw Landis.
Right.
I'm going to shake his hand.
Yeah. Judge Kennesaw Landis.
His name is Judge?
Judge Kennesaw Landis.
This guy's cool.
He was a commissioner for quite a while.
For the Negro Leagues.
For the major leagues.
Oh, okay, never mind. Maybe I'm not going to like this guy. I might
No,
have to...
you're not going to like him.
It's a cool name. Sorry.
You're going to hate him.
Okay. My bad.
He's the one that stopped black players from entering the major leagues.
Well, now I look like a jerk.
For years and years and years. Well, he retired. And he retired in 1945.
Okay.
And he finally got out. He was the one that stonewalled every movement they could to bring the young black stars in.
He's got a cool name, but I hate him.
You should hate him.
Right.
He was a racist beyond a racist. With no rhyme or reason, he just made that blatant judgment. And, some of these guys who could have played him... Think of Satchel Paige.
Yeah, I don't want to shake his hand anymore. I
No.
retract my statement.
Think of Satchel Paige. Got to the major leagues in his 40s. He could have been pitching the whole time and been a star in the major leagues.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No. I'm past Kennesaw Landis.
Good.
No, actually, keep going. I'll save it for the end if I still have it.
But he was horrendous. Yes, he just horrible. Again, the first player signed was Jackie Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
He played minor league baseball in '46
Uh-huh.
with the Montreal Royals,
Uh-huh.
and then
Knew
April
that.
15th, 1947 was Jackie's first game.
Jackie Robinson Day.
Correct.
Branch
Now-
Rickey.
And now it's celebrating everything else. Who was the second black player?
Larry Doby.
And what team?
Cleveland Indians.
Very, very good. Very good.
All right.
Yeah, yeah,
Hopefully
yeah.
that makes up for my Kennesaw Landis comment.
Yes.
Internet's going to clip that. That's going to be great.
And then as time went on, other teams started adding black players, including Willie Mays, Ernie Banks, Hank Aaron. All was there after the 40s and all that stuff got signed. Buck O'Neil, Josh Gibson, Junior Gilliam. Brooklyn Dodgers were one of the strong teams that signed the black players and everything else.
New York, for instance.
Campanis and everything else. So as those young stars left the Negro Leagues disbanded in 1948.
Okay, now I have a question.
Sure.
So this is what I was thinking earlier, and I want to get your opinion on it too. So the commissioner after Kennesaw and Branch Rickey, were they trying to be like nice guys about it and integrate the league, or did they see the Negro Leagues as competition? Because you just said they drew 3 million.
Financially, yes.
3 million fans. This is right after the Depression. So let's basically, I mean, it's...
I think it was all the above.
Because it's what it sounds like. It sounds like imperialism. Let's take your best players, put them on our rosters, and then I know you are going to therefore... Your revenue is going to drop and all that stuff. I don't know if they had merchandise sales like jerseys. I doubt it. But like your revenue, your ticket's going to drop.
Yeah.
And then now you're obsolete. And now we can charge more tickets for everybody. I'm thinking it's a little bit of competition more than niceness.
Right. It's a financial decision. You're correct.
Right.
And then you're saying on the weekend, the people that used to go and see the Barnstormers will now go to Yankee Stadium, Ebbets Field, the Polo Grounds.
But could they?
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm saying this is 47, right? 47?
Yeah, the black fans could go in there.
Do they have a section?
I think they did.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
So they probably gave up. Well, they didn't give up, but I guess they kind of had to when the Negro Leagues folded. So at the Negro League game, they probably had behind home plate, and I'm gonna just make a assumption here that they did not get home plate seats.
No,
at Yankee Stadium.
They were probably either in the berm or the bleachers.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'm seeing this more as a financial.
Yeah, I mean, somebody with a very good business mind could have said, "Hey, listen,
let's go get the best."
Yeah, we're losing revenue.
Right.
We can.
Were they losing revenue? I don't know.
I think some teams were.
This is not a math pod.
Yeah. But anyway, name the team that was the last team to add a black player in the major leagues.
Oh, I already know. This is gonna be the Boston Red Sox.
It is.
It's gonna be the Boston Red Sox.
1959.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Sounds right. Boston's a racist town.
Unfortunately,
it was the last town to segregate too, or desegregate. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
With buses.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's got a history of racism.
And
what town doesn't at this point?
And that player was Elijah Pumphrey Green.
That one I would have got.
That was the player that got added to the Boston roster. Some of the things that the Negro Leagues did as they were losing revenue and losing their stars, they added women and white players to the roster, just to try to grab some of that revenue share to come out and support the teams.
So they took, since we did, I mean, this was only a couple podcasts ago at this point. So the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, so they took a few stars from them, probably? Okay.
Correct.
Because they were folding around this time, too.
Correct. So they're doing anything to try to keep those things happening and everything else.
But it doesn't sound like it was successful.
No, it was going downhill without the stars and the Satchel Paige putting on the show. The show stopped.
Baseball...
like a Broadway star losing, a Broadway show losing a star, it's just not the same.
I think baseball in the 30s was awesome. Like, it sounds like you have so many opportunities to watch fantastic players, whether that's, again, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League starting to form at this time.
Yeah.
The idea is it's mid-40s. You have clearly the Negro League at its peak. It disbanded. It formed in the 20s, disbanded in the 40s, so the 30s were probably the best. This is coming down the pike. You don't know about it yet, but the House of David there's like baseball cults at this time going on. All right.
Yeah, and don't
30 sounds like a good time if you're just a baseball fan.
And a lot of times it was day baseball.
Bad time if you don't have money because it's a depression.
Right. So it was day baseball. People went out there, and I'm thinking to see a ball game, maybe everything, including food, was less than $5.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, it was great entertainment.
Yeah. I know this. You said day ball games. I don't know where or when, but I remember I was looking up stats about how the Cubs were the last team to do.
1988.
Right. A light game. I think it was Sutcliffe was on the mound. Let's see how good oh my God.
Very good.
The first people or the first teams to do night games were Negro League teams. I don't know I don't know when or the team played or the cities played, but I do remember coming across that stat. Check it out.
And I bet you those lights were not good.
No, but it counted.
I know.
A light was on somewhere.
That's right.
Maybe in a barn.
Who knows? So anyway,
Light.
Yeah. So once they started getting all those really great players, kind of the rest is history, and changed the baseball and really added to the athleticism of baseball, in my opinion. You had the Willie Mays in center field that could run all over the place, had a rocket for an arm, and all of a sudden you're like, these guys are now. Well, I'll say this. I think Chicago is one of the great cities to welcome black players. And what I want to say is between Ernie Banks and Billy Williams, they became stars in that city. They didn't see black, white, or whatever. Ernie Banks became Mr. Cub. What a great transition from not having any black players to being the god of the team, being a black player, Ernie Banks.
Yeah, when you think Cubs,
credit Chicago.
Yeah, first player you think of when you think of Chicago Cubs is Ernie Banks.
Correct. And Billy Williams was right there, and he played in the Negro Leagues and everything else. But what a great tribute to a city that said, hey, we don't care, black, white, green, orange, whatever, you're a Chicago Cub, we're going to support you. And I thought that was great. So that's my little 2 cents of the Cubs. I want to bring it back home.
Baltimore. We're from Maryland.
Yes.
Despite the Seattle shirt.
That's right. Natty Bo all the way.
As you can tell.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, Baltimore had really 2 teams.
Yes. Did they exist at the same time?
No.
Cool.
The first team was the Baltimore Black Sox, and they were from 1913 to 1936. Oh. They played at Maryland Baseball Park. Can you tell me where Maryland Baseball Park was located?
Like the city? I can't just say
where
Baltimore.
In Baltimore?
I'll say Cardinal Gibbons because I'm sure there's some relationship with Babe Ruth maybe, but that's just my guess.
Well, you're a good guess. It was called the Westport Stadium at Waterview Road, and you should know that landmark because right now that is the Baltimore-Washington Parkway.
Oh.
So the park that the first...
Waterview?
Yeah.
Okay.
We pass that every time.
Keep talking. I'm going to look that up. See if try to find out where that is.
It was Waterview Road and Bean Boulevard.
Oh, okay.
So we go right underneath that bridge when we go to Baltimore.
Okay.
So anyway...
So it's just south of the city then?
Correct. Right by the industrial area and everything else in the city. But it was called Maryland Baseball Park at Westport Stadium. And remember riding a train and one of the stops is Westport?
Yeah.
So in that area was Maryland Baseball Park, and now it is the Parkway.
Oh, it's right by Harbor.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So that is kind of cool. And then after that came the Baltimore Elite Giants.
Elite Giants.
They want you to pronounce it Elite.
Really?
Yeah.
It's spelled elite.
Correct.
Why would it be Elite?
Because for some reason, when I did my research, they phonetically spelled it out how people wanted it to be called.
All right.
And that was from 1938 to 1950, and that was at 1601.
What, 1948 to 1950?
1938 to 1950.
So they picked up right when the Black Sox dropped off. Okay.
Correct, a year after. And they were at 1601 Edison Highway, which is part of the industrial part of town in Baltimore County.
I'm looking it up now. Edison Highway.
Yes. So basically, it was almost the line between the city and Baltimore County.
I didn't know there's these multiple stadiums. So Memorial Stadium was still a thing when these things were going on.
Correct.
Yes. It's right near a...
industrial area now.
Yeah.
I think there's a factory there now. So 1601.
Right by Catholic High.
Okay.
That's the nearest thing.
Yeah, 1601.
For everyone that's super enthralled right now, Baltimore trivia is kind of fun. If you guys are passionate, again, if you have two former Negro League teams in your town, find out where they played because it's kind of fun. Also, it's sad to see that these. It's like the Polo Grounds in New York is now not a stadium anymore. It's I think it's just housing, but still.
Correct. And look at Memorial Stadium. And
that's housing too.
Correct. And the one last bit of trivia, and then
we're gonna have fun. I thought of how
Okay.
something else we could add to.
Some of the players that came through Baltimore that played in there as in Highway: Roy Campanella,
Wow.
Leon Day,
Yeah.
Joe
New York
Black,
Eagles.
Joe Black, and Junior Gilliam. And
They were the home team, or they just played at that stadium?
They came through through there. But they had, terrific stars come through. Leon Day, I think, was from the Baltimore area.
He was.
And then I think, retired here and everything else. Boy, Roy Campanella had a stellar career, Brooklyn Dodgers. Junior Gilliam had a great career with the Brooklyn Dodgers as well. But just kind of the young bucks that came through, Baltimore and other barnstorming towns and showed their talent and then became part of the major leagues. So Baltimore was a huge part of the Negro Leagues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dad.
You're welcome.
Because I asked about this earlier, I think it could be kind of fun. Now, people that are watching, you might have played this game in like college as a drinking game. It's sort of like going back and forth about naming certain things, and if you can't remember, you got to drink. State Capitals has really done well with this. I figured we could name back and forth Negro League teams and to see who might mess up first.
Okay.
You can choose who goes first.
You go first because I don't know where we're going with it.
Okay, so we're just naming teams.
Okay, got it.
The Newark Eagles. Very confident because Leon Day played for them.
Okay, Kansas City Monarchs.
Baltimore Elite Giants.
There's a lot of Giants along the way. I'm trying to think who else.
I'm listening just to your podcast, some of these teams.
Indianapolis ABCs.
Indianapolis Clowns. I know Hank Aaron played for them.
Okay. I'm trying to think the different hats and everything. Had to be one out of Detroit. Oh, Chicago Black Sox.
Okay. I will do the Baltimore Black Sox.
Okay.
I'm just going with what's been on your podcast. I've been an active listener. This is the test.
You know what? I got to refer my notes. I'm out of ammunition right now.
I'll start going. Pittsburgh Crawdads or Crawfish. I want to say it's Crawdads.
You said that's correct.
Atlanta Black Crackers.
Yes.
New York Black Yankees. Cuban Giants. I'm pretty sure they're out of New York too.
Correct.
I don't know the team out of Albany. I'm going to say Philadelphia Stars. I don't think there's a team out of Boston.
I think you're correct with the Philadelphia Stars.
I could be wrong about Boston, but I don't think so.
I don't think they had a Negro League
Were there
team.
2 teams in Kansas City or just the Monarchs?
I'm thinking just the Monarchs, but they're a powerful team. Because even the museum is in Kansas City.
Okay.
Yes.
St. Louis, do you think Giants as well?
I think so.
Right, because the Browns were the team
right.
at the Major League at the time.
Correct.
So it wouldn't be sense to be called the Browns. So let's go St. Louis Giants. I'm thinking just middle America at this point.
And industrial towns. Dayton, I don't know the name.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a new one for me.
But
Dayton.
if they were, having factories working 24 hours a day, that's where the jobs were.
Yeah.
And that's where the guys worked during the week. And
so no DC. There wasn't a DC team.
I don't think there was.
Cleveland?
Yes, there was one in Cleveland. And
Cincinnati?
I would think there'd be one in Cincinnati because that was hot baseball.
Okay.
The Reds were the first major league team.
Dayton has one. The other two have to have.
Yeah.
No offense to Dayton. Okay, you said there was 16 or 18 teams? You can consult your notes. See what I missed. See if I
no, I think you got them all.
I'm sure I missed a couple. Sound off in the comments.
I didn't write down nicknames.
But they're mascots, right? Or not about nicknames.
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be a quiz.
I made it. I had fun with this. This was a needed trivia,
Yeah.
Knowing the team names is kind of like a little bit more their personality.
But, the thing that I came away with some anger, as we talked about before, and just the commissioner of baseball just being so ruthless, not to even listen and, say, hey, look, what about if we did this and this? He just arbitrarily went, no. And it took him to get out of that office for this to happen. If he would have continued, think of the great players we wouldn't have seen.
Well, you're looking at a microcosm, Dad. You're looking at one business, really, that said no to African-American talent. Think about any other, not even athletics. Think about businesses. Think about education, colleges. So you're looking at his actions at that time were duplicated 1,000-fold in so many other different areas of life, which is really unfortunate.
Chicago American Giants.
Chicago American Giants. There's another team.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no. Again, now I've eat my words. He does have a cool name, and that's it. That's all the compliments he'll get.
Right. and I think he kept baseball. He probably handcuffed baseball because baseball could have been even bigger and better for many reasons.
Right.
But for some reason, the commissioner of baseball then was all powerful.
MLB All Stars versus Negro League All Stars could be a cool game. Talking about drawing fans.
God. Yeah.
But I mean, it's
especially in a city that welcomed all races.
Yeah.
New York, Chicago?
Is it the 32 or 36 Olympics when they were in Germany and then
correct?
A black athlete won. I think Jesse Owens. Am I saying that right? Yeah. Won the race in gold in Berlin.
Fantastic athlete. He went on to play pro football. So, just a natural athlete that, again, he was probably in his later 20s when he won that. I think 10 years younger, just thinking about how phenomenal he was.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, this is a great little history of the Negro Leagues, Dad. I think obviously I think we'll see more of this moving forward, which is really good.
Yeah.
Makes me want to check out that museum. Visit your local museum. Visit the one in Kansas City. Good baseball town.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I would, and I think it'd be great to even have it, one of the All-Star games, bring back as many people as they could to honor that. And, before the game, bring them out like you do opening day and all that stuff. That'd be fun. And, some of them passed away, unfortunately, but whoever's left come out and just say, just give some stories about what it was like to be in the Negro Leagues and how fun it was. I think those guys were great. I think Richard Pryor made a movie mid-'70s about barnstorming, and they did have fun, but again, conditions were rough.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Dad, thanks for the education. I hope everyone that was listening enjoyed it. That you share some of my dad's passion as well as anger about this subject in a way. Healthy anger. But yeah, I appreciate the lessons, and I mean, I do remember probably the biggest thing about the Negro Leagues growing up that I remembered is just some of those cool names, some of the theatricality that you didn't really get to see in the MLB, which is more like professional, and this was like, let's have fun with it, which again, at the heart of baseball, let's be Satchel Pages, let's taunt opponents, let's get some smack talking involved. I think that adds a level of fun, notoriety, silliness, but just it adds a level of just competition to me that I think made their league unique, just like the AAGPBL was really unique for its own different reasons. So again, 30s baseball, I think could be fun to watch.
I think pre-game they used to have little competitions, and they used to do a lot of tricks and everything else. It was beyond the regular baseball game you went to with the major leagues. These guys were entertainers and athletes. And I think that's how sports have become today. They're entertainers and athletes.
You never know who we might have on the show, because we both met this, I don't know what's his title, curator of this museum. Maybe we have him on and stuff like that, and get instead of these jack wagons talking about Negro League, and somebody that this guy was an older gentleman, so he might have known some of these players and has some firsthand knowledge. So hopefully, we continue to expand and grow, and maybe do this 2.0 in the future and get some more information.
I think it would be very educational.
Yeah.
Well,
Dad, my dad told me at the beginning of this podcast, it'll take 15, 20 minutes, and we're almost at minute 40. So sometimes you get really involved in these conversations, so we hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.
Wow.
And then, tune in for our next trivia, tune in for our next draft. We always have new content coming. Dad, you want to say sign off?
Thanks for letting me do this.
Oh, well, they say you're welcome. Thanks, everybody.